So it's been a year with the C70. As you saw in the intro, some of my favorite shots that I've captured with this camera since I've had it. It's been a blast. I love using this thing. Let's talk about, is it still my dream camera 1 year later? Do I still love it? What are the things I don't like about it? Would I recommend that you buy it today? Let's talk about it. Before we talk more about the C70, I want to thank Track Club for sponsoring today's video. And let me tell you why I agreed to a partnership with them. When it comes to creating films and videos, music is one of the most important parts of the project. Sometimes I get frustrated because I go to download a song and there's like aspects of it that I like, but then it's, halfway through this weird sound comes in that I don't like. And I've always wished that, man, if only I could just turn that down or turn that off or take that part out. And let me tell you, Track Club has done exactly that. Right on trackclub.com, you can use the Mix Lab feature to take out certain parts of the songs that you don't want. You can change the BPMs, you can mute a part, you can turn down a part, remix a whole track to fit your needs. They're putting the control of your sound back in your hands, and it's incredible. Their library of high quality music is growing daily, and let me just tell you, they have become my favorite source for all the music and things that I use in my videos. Not only is finding the right music for your films hard at times, it's also difficult to find one that you can license properly without spending an arm and a leg. So with your Track Club subscription, you can go in and input your channel ID on your account, and they'll automatically clear any copyright issues that you may have on your account. So it's a peace of mind knowing that your content is safe and you're not going to get flagged or anything like that as you upload your films. Track Club has generously partnered with me to give you guys a 1 month free subscription to all their services. It's a full trial, so you'll get to go in, download music, play with the Mix Lab, mix a song for your video, see how you like it. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. I think it's gonna be great. So hit that link in the description. You can get 1 month free Track Club. I'm telling you, do not let music be an afterthought to your projects. Sign up for Track Club today. The C70 really is an interesting camera when you think about it. It sits in a place in the market where all of those cameras at that price range are getting smaller and smaller. Cinema cameras are getting smaller and smaller. You have companies like Sony producing, tiny cameras that are full frame and do 4K 60 and 4K 120 and have some cinema camera features. Then you have the C70, a really powerful camera that is not full frame, that is not small. It's pretty chunky. You can rig it out really big. It can become a really big cinema camera. It has a ton of cinema camera features, and I think it sits at a really interesting place within the market. First, I kind of want to go over the things that I've learned about this camera, things that I like, don't like, that I've discovered over the last year. The first being the image quality. It's just great. I love the image off of this camera. The skin tones look great. The highlight roll off is great. It truly does produce a beautiful, soft, cinematic image. And I don't mean soft in a bad way. Some people complain about the C70 being too soft, the sensor being too soft. I just wholeheartedly disagree, because you can add sharpness in post if you really need that. I really prefer the soft, natural look that it gives, as opposed to something that's super clinical and just tack sharp all the time. So I'm really pleased with the image quality of the camera. You're getting around 16 stops of dynamic range, and I can really tell a difference from something like the R6 or the R6 Mark II or even like an R5. You really do see the improvement in dynamic range and retaining in the highlights, retaining in the shadows, all of those things. It really is a powerhouse when it comes to image quality and all the different log formats that you can shoot in to be able to grade the exact image that you want. You guys saw in the intro, there's a bunch of different styles of shoots in that intro, and they're all shot with the Canon C70. You're in really dark environments, controlled environments, uncontrolled environments, run and gun environments. In all those places, the C70 has performed really well for me, and I absolutely love just the images that I've gotten off of this camera in the last year. One of the other things I love about the camera is the fact that it has autofocus, and that Canon has been pushing firmware updates since I've had this camera, at least 3, I believe, that have all improved the autofocus, added the eye tracking. There's actually one more that was just announced last week that I've not even installed yet and updated to, but again, improving the autofocus. I don't care what you say, autofocus is a great feature to have, especially when it's reliable and it looks natural like Canon autofocus does. And so I'm super happy to have an autofocus system on this camera that I really can trust, especially in well-lit environments. It performs great. It struggles a little bit in low light, but honestly, for 90% of what I'm doing, the autofocus has performed just fine. And knowing that I have it when I need it and that it's there and it's reliable is super reassuring for me. Now, in terms of shooting with the Canon C70, I've learned that exposing a stop over usually is the way to go because you can retain those highlights. It performs great when you do that. The noise levels are low when you do that. This camera, you will run into problems if you underexpose your image. If you're shooting at high ISOs and you underexpose, you're gonna have problems. It is not the cleanest low light camera. I'm not saying that it is. It definitely is not. That's probably its biggest weakness, in my opinion, is its low light shooting. Luckily, it cleans up really well with good denoise software and like high quality stuff. Like you can get premium looking images even if it is noisy. So it does clean up well, but that adds just an extra step in the edit, and I don't always want to have to do that. So low light is this camera's biggest weakness, in my opinion. As you can see, this footage I shot recently, it was a super dark. We were going for that really dark vibe and that look, and it performed really well because I exposed properly in camera. Another thing that I haven't loved about this camera is I do miss full frame. I came from shooting on more SLR mirrorless type cameras that are always full frame, like the R6, R6 Mark II, Canon 5D back in the day, all these cameras that were full frame. Now, granted, I have the speed booster for the C70 and you can get a very full frame like image out of it, which is great. But if I want to use my RF glass, I'm stuck at Super 35, which is not a deal breaker. I don't mind Super 35. I think sometimes it's actually preferred. It's a great look. Again, it looks great, but sometimes I do find myself missing that full frame depth and that full frame image out of my RF lenses. The other issue that I've encountered with this camera is the flip out screen. It is flimsy. The hinge is flimsy. I didn't have issues at first. It kind of come on later. So I'm actually sending the camera out to get fixed because Canon recognizes that they messed up and they reinforce those hinges if you send them in. I think they fixed them on the newer models, but I bought one of the last runs of the models before they fixed the issue and addressed it. So that's been a frustration, but it's not widespread anymore. It was in the original batch of those cameras. So if you have one of those, you probably know what I'm talking about. The screen doesn't stop working or anything. It's just, it gets really flimsy. When you're working in a professional environment, you just can't deal with the possibility of snapping that screen off or breaking something or it being loose. It's just not ideal. So you definitely want to get that fixed if you're having that problem. You should be able to send it into Canon and they should fix it for you, no questions asked. Built-in ND filters are honestly such a game changer, and having them on the C70 is the best. I cannot tell you how much I hate using screw-on ND filters. Anytime I break out the R6 or something like that and have to go outside and shoot something, I dread it because I know I'm gonna have to use an ND, throw in a variable ND, which is gonna color shift and it's gonna do all these weird things. In the C70, knowing that I can just hit a button and knowing that I have 10 stops of ND at my disposal right within the camera at the push of a button is incredible. Another huge plus about the Canon C70 is its audio capabilities. The fact that you can run 4 channels simultaneously, get scratch audio with the built-in mic while having 2 XLR mics hooked up at the same time, and then a lav backup. It's such an important part of filmmaking and creating videos is your audio. You don't want your audio to sound like crap. I've become an audiophile over the years, and bad audio drives me insane. And so I want to make sure that I have reliable audio, and I found that the Canon C70 is super reliable. Anytime the audio has been bad on my end, has been user error. Is not because of the C70, it's because I would set something wrong or forget or do something like that. So I have no complaints about the audio. It's incredible. Having 2 mini XLR ports that you can adapt to full XLR. It's amazing in such a small package that you can have that powerful of an audio interface at your fingertips. Another thing that I've come to love about the C70 is the ergonomics. I know some people like the smaller cameras, but for me, I got big hands. I like a real chunky grip on a camera, and that's why I love the C70. I run the tilt-a-cage on it a lot of times, and I'll use the right grip, the grip that's built into the camera for my right hand, and sometimes I'll throw an extra handle on the left. Sometimes I won't. And it's just the perfect combo. It can break this camera down so small like I did when I went to Washington, or you can rig it out as a full cinema rig if you need V-mounts and all the matte boxes and rails and all that stuff. You can do that as well. So it's just super versatile in the things that you can do with this camera, which is another reason why I love it. I've also loved all of the firmware updates that Canon's pushed on this camera with the addition of being able to shoot 12-bit RAW. We have all the different formats between MP4, XAVC, all these different recording modes and compression rates that you can do depending on the type of project you're doing. It's super versatile, and they continue to add to this camera, and I'm super thankful that they've continued to support it and push out new features. One of the things I don't love about this camera is the stupid rubber door flaps on every port. I get it. I get cameras have to have it. You want to try to weather seal some stuff, but they're just annoying. Everything gets so congested in there when you have a bunch of them opened at the same time. If you're using, you know, both mini XLR jacks, you're using the HDMI, you're using, you know, all these different ports, it can get really cluttered really quickly. That's frustrating. I've thought about taking them off. I know a lot of people take them off, but for me, I just don't like the idea of ripping them off the camera. It's just something about that just bugs me. It is annoying. I wish there could be a better solution, but it is what it is. Another thing that I wish this camera had is I wish it had SDI. I know we all wish it had SDI. I don't mind HDMI. I would love to have both. I like options. HDMI is just fragile and it's not as reliable of a cable and of a port, but it is what it is. You can work around those kind of things, but SDI would be a thing that would be great for this camera. Maybe a Mark II version, C70 Mark II, if they could add SDI, that would be awesome. Now, sitting here a year later, is the C70 still considered a dream camera of mine? I think yes and no. Any job that you do, any career, any field that you're in, especially as artists, I think we all have this desire to continue to improve, and we all grow with time, and our styles change and our styles evolve. I think we can always move up to the point where our current gear is not cutting it for us anymore with the type of projects that we're doing. And I'm not saying I'm there yet with the C70, but there are some things I'm like, man, a C500 would be sweet for this gig. Or like, man, wouldn't it be cool to shoot this with like a Sony Venice or something? Like, there's these dreams that I have and projects that I have that I would love to be able to get a higher end camera. But for the most part, everything that I'm doing, the Canon C70 meets my needs. So is it still my dream camera? Yes. Am I grateful to have it? Do I love it? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that that's where it stops. You know, for me, there's other dream cameras. There's other dream projects that I want to work on with. I know the C70 wouldn't cut it. But what I'm doing right now, it's more than enough. And I have room to grow within this camera, within the thresholds of this camera. So I think it's easy to get caught up in the fact that, like, okay, well, the C70's, you know, a couple years old now. What if they come out with the C70 Mark II? What if, you know, Sony comes out with this? Or what if Fujifilm comes out with this, right? There's all these different options. Oh, what if I need the new Ari? Like, we have all these dreams. And I think we can get caught up in chasing the gear, thinking that that's going to make us better. But I think what we should do is always work on the craft, grow within our craft, and then when we realize that our gear is holding us back, that's when you make a change and you move up the ladder and you get something different. And that's when that dream camera can change and that can morph and evolve and grow into something bigger and better. So there you go. That's 1 year with the Canon C70. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. What are you using? Are you thinking about switching? You thinking about buying a C70? You thinking about switching to Sony? You thinking about switching to Fuji? What gear are you guys using? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll catch you in the next one.